Hello everybody and welcome to this general playthrough for Pro and Expert Division for the WM Phoenix Open 18-hole cup, a full 18, including Waterfield Sands and Wiseacre Ranch. For those of you watching this playthrough, if you enjoy it, hit the thumbs up button, also subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. For those of you looking to improve your game even more, scan the QR code here on the screen or go directly to patreon.com/golfclashtommy. There you can find loads of different packages and you can improve your game in tour and tournament play. Last but not least, information box on the right hand side for the club distance adjustment, elevation adjustment, also a ball and club type I do suggest you to play with. Have in mind those are all suggestions and you obviously don't have to follow it if you don't want to. Let's go to hole number 1. Hole number 8, which is hole number 1 of the Wiseacre Ranch, and here we are starting with QB and a P6 ball at max rest. Looking to have the white ring to the left by the rough line, and then we are swapping to a pock and our thorn bag. 3 left spin and 5.8 top spin. Adjust is going to be max plus 20 P0. And what I would like to say here is that using a ball with more power will give you a much slower needle. Using a power 3 ball here is gonna be, power 6 ball here is gonna be shaky. If you can use a power 7, 8, 9 or 10 ball, you will most definitely have a much better needle, and if so, easier to hit perfect. But you can see we are far away from the bunker and can most definitely be having no issues getting ourselves with even grades up between 350 and 360 yards. Second shot, it's with our thorn, and we are going to do a bottom and white ring pin check. And once we have done that, we're gonna move back and play with no spin. Ball guideline to be 1 cup through the hole here. And once we have found that spot, we are going to play from +3 and +4 check. We do 54% slider, +5% elevation, P3 numbers. We center the ball. And we hit perfect. And a perfect ball here will have a very good chance for a drop. Hole number 2, we're gonna go for a rough bump. I'm gonna use left spin here to put myself as far away from the fairway on the left possible to give myself room for great balls to drop. You can see here now that I'm using a little bit of topspin as well, aiming at the center of the bright green square row with the tip of my ball guideline, slightly short as well to compensate for the tailwind. Adjustment, medium distance +10. And do you have to play with a kingmaker here? No, you do not. You can play with a katana as well, or any other side spin 3, power 1 plus ball, because we are starting at the +3 yard mark. That's obviously with sniper level 10. If you do have a lower level sniper, you need to have minimum a power 2 ball, and you can't play with a power 1 ball because you have less power on your wood club. This is, in my opinion, a very good chance to start off the par 3 journey with an hole-in 1. So again, medium distance +10, which is 1-to-1 with a power 3 ball, and couldn't be much more simple than this. Hole number 3, we're gonna play straight down the right hand side in any wind direction that is crosswind or headwind. If we do have a straight tailwind, I would recommend to blast it down the left hand side. However, that was not found in practice and therefore I cannot use that as a reference. But that's gonna be a way of going at it if we are getting a tailwind. So now, ball bouncing on the fairway, getting it down to roll. Here I would recommend to push it harder if you do have the balls to do that, and the reason for that is that the closer we are to the end of the rough, the better chance it's going to be, because then we're going to have to play with a long iron, but in this case we're going to have to play with a wood club. Now, having headwind is going to remove the chances of playing a rough bump, which would be my preferred way of attacking the pin. Attacking the pin by bouncing over the rough and the sand is going to only be happening in headwind if you are not long enough with your drive. It's not the recommended way of playing to get the most amount of albatrosses, but it's going to be the most secure way of locking in the eagle. So either going for the rough bump to have a better albatross chance, or to just bounce on the fairway. If you're bouncing on the fairway, you're playing at 10% elevation and true club distance. If you go for the rough bump, you're playing minus 5% elevation instead. So the difference in elevation is very important to have in mind, because obviously when it is to play with a rough bump instead of bouncing on fairway, there's always going to be an elevation difference to be absolutely correct. So tough but makeable chance on hole 3. I would consider hole number 3 to be the most makeable albatross there is, and that just tells you, that will tell you how hard the upcoming par 5s will be of the Wiseacre. Hole number 1. Now we're going to try to get ourselves as far down the fairway possible. The closer we are to the end of the fairway, the better it's going to be. So it's a very open fairway. There is very little risk for water and rough here, but it puts a lot of pressure on you as a player to have a club with a lot of topspin, or that you in that case are having a better ball, or that you do have the best possible clubs. Maximum distance plus 15, and in a headwind I would recommend, regardless on how much topspin you do have on your driver, that you go max overpower, because even if you do hit a bad grade to the left or to the right, the fairway are so wide, so you won't be getting into trouble. Second shot, now it's a sniper towards the pin. This is a very weird shot in my opinion. I'm playing from min line here, which I do like, so I like the idea with it, but the elevation here is much greater than what it should be from a logic perspective. I mean, when we're taking our shot, it looks like we're playing uphill, but we're playing it with a downhill elevation, and that was definitely one of the tougher parts when we had the Waterfield Sands hole 1 for the first time. So what I recommend here is to not play as I'm doing in the video. I'm playing at minimum distance with 5% elevation. I would recommend to play 20% elevation and true club distance. So in this instance, we should be playing 20% elevation together with minimum distance, because you can see here we come onto the fairway, we bounce up towards the pin, and we're missing fairly wide on the left hand side, definitely with a good half a ring, which is once again speaking towards we need more elevation. And the reason I have medium distance in the info box is due to the fact that we will be somewhere between minimum and medium distance most of the time. For hole number 2 in tailwind, we are going to play with a wood club. Here you can play with a horizon, but you can also play with the sniper if you do have the sniper in level 10. The problem with the sniper in a lower level is that you will most likely not have the power enough to reach to the spot that we want to. You can see here that I'm wiggling around, and the funnel here on the back of the green is absolutely massive. And obviously this is our goal. We are going to try to catch that funnel, so we're going to roll past the pin and then use the slope of the green and then fall back down. If you do play with the sniper or with the horizon, we shall still keep the 10% elevation, and we're going to play max numbers. In the video I play power 4 ball numbers because that was aligning better with the complete adjustment. If you do play in a crosswind or a headwind, I do recommend to play with a driver instead from the same position, but then obviously the spins will be slightly different, because you will most likely need less topspin in headwind because you're playing with a driver, and then the adjustment might differ as well. Quarterback or the rock is to prefer in headwind just because of the ball guideline, because having a good ball guideline here is definitely an advantage over those that do not have a good ball guideline. So this is an extremely good chance, in my opinion, to have an hole-in-one. Hole number 3 is probably one of the tougher par 5s in the whole game to get an eagle on, and even tougher when it is to get an albatross on. I don't think I've seen many. I think 2 or 3 albatrosses in this one, and I must say that has been more or less a complete fluke if getting that albatross to drop from distance. So what I'm doing here, that I'm playing with a power 5 ball, I would say that that is an absolute must, because we do need all the distance that we can get on the second shot. Using 4.5 bar top spin and 2 left spin, using max curl to the left, adjusting max no elevation, and the goal is to get as far down this fairway island without obviously rolling into the rough. The reason I'm using a lot of curl is due to the fact that the fairway slopes left to right, and if we're not using the curl, we will most likely roll into the rough on the right because the ball will be massively pushed down there. Second shot, now having a headwind, we cannot go over the rough and the sand with our first bounce. We're going to have to bounce before. So now use the wood club that gives you the most power, but also the most topspin. Because the more topspin we have, the closer we can get to the green for a third shot, which is going to be a big pressure on. Because if we're not dropping that one, we're going to get a birdie. And it's still going to be around like a medium-sized wedge. You see here that we're bouncing down the fairway, and you can see we're close to green, but not that close that we kind of want to be. But let's take a look at the wedge just as a reference. It's going to play EB School plus 20% P5, as we're playing with a power 5 ball. Here you can, if you do have Endbringer 7 or 8, you can use all the topspin and play EB School minus 35% P4 numbers instead. Obviously that's going to be much easier, and it will give you a possibility to drop even though you're hitting a great ball, or even if you hit a great ball. But you can see here now the wedge is not a gimme. Be focused, because an eagle here, regardless what wind direction you have off tee, is going to be a very good thing to have on your scorecard, because your opponents will definitely struggle as much as you do, and birdie will be definitely more common than getting an albatross, or I would say a birdie will be in headwind of tee more common than an eagle on many players' scorecard. For hole number 3, we're starting with an NMT, meaning no move target. Then we are setting 5.8 top spin and 1 left spin. You can see here that Grant is using a side spin 1 ball to simplify setting the spins, which I think is very smart. But if you don't want to start with the navigator and you want to start with the ball that you prefer to use all the way through, then you can do that, of course, as well. Max plus 20 P0 with our Apocalypse. Once we have done the adjustment, we go max overpower with half a ball of left curl with a completely slow needle. Hit perfect, and the ball will go somewhere between 345 and 350 yards. Now we're going to play with our thorn on the second shot, and this is definitely a play that has a very nice and good drop rate, especially also when the wind is not entirely straight, but it's definitely on the straighter side. For topspin, we're looking to set our aim into the rough. Ball guideline will then go 1 green square through the hole. Adjust from landing position is +5 and +6 is then 90% slider with 20% elevation, P3 numbers. So we make the adjustment, and then it's going to be centered ball and hit perfect. There we go. Clips the rough and rolls down the green and dropping dead center for the eagle. Hole number 5, another rough bump and another good chance for an hole-in-one. I'm starting with the left side of the yellow ring to be by the edge of the rough in complete max distance. This is with sniper level 10. Those of you that do want to mirror exact the same spot needs to play with a power 4 ball if you play with a lower level sniper. Obviously this might not be ultimate in a tournament situation, but this is something at least to build on, and that's why I'm using this video as the tournament starts. Now, using a little bit of right spin, a little bit of top spin to get the ball guideline slightly short of hole. We do have a tailwind, so we need to think about that because we will be having an extended ball guideline. Maximum distance plus 20, so 7.1 rings for 5.8 miles per hour, which is, yeah, the correct adjustment that I'm using in the video. And as always, when it comes to par 3s, I'm not gonna rule out the possibility that the adjustment will be different if we do have a different wind angle. Right the pin. Beautiful hole in one on a good chance on hole 5. Hole number 6 is going to be a really tough par 5 to get anything else than an eagle on. I would say that in more or less every type of wind, this is going to be a fight for an eagle. The only time it wouldn't be a fight for an eagle, or we can actually secure the eagle easily and get ourselves an albatross attempt, is if we do have tailwind of tee. But that's not the case now. So having a crosswind, I want you to push as far down the fairway possible with your drive. I'm using all the top spin that I can, all the right spin that I can. I'm using a power 5 ball and going max overpower. The goal here is to clip the rough with my second bounce to roll out on the fairway, and now I do have a way of transport the ball to green. If having a headwind, you're gonna have to use a driver with a lot of curl, playing it down the right side of the fairway, because we cannot reach over the water and the rough that is just straight forward. So this is, depending on what wind you have of tee, could be a very difficult par 5 to play. So now second shot, you can see here now that even if we do have a power 5 ball, and even if we went max overpower and pushed it on the drive, we're still not being able to reach over the rough patch and bounce the ball up towards the green. So now you do have two suggestions here, or a choice between two things, which is one, to go for a rough bump and just use all the topspin that you have to roll the ball to green, or that you use what I do here and just more a controlled way by bouncing on the fairway with less topspin, with in case a little bit of backspin, and just securing the eagle. Playing the shot that I'm doing here in the video is not going to result into an albatross if you're not super duper lucky, and that's the same with a rough bump, because the rough bump is very glitchy, and that's going to be very dependent on hitting the same and correct spot every time if you're going to drop that one for anything else than an eagle. Take your game to the next level with our ultimate tournament text guide for Master Division for the WM Phoenix Open 18-hole Cup. Yes, during this 18-hole Cup, we do an ultimate tournament text guide for Master Division. For those playing other divisions, we do have our starter pack that will give you access to our general text guide, so you get some elevation information and just general information of how to play the different courses. Obviously, we have tour guides as well, so we have a platform that offers you premium guides for all the game modes. Free to play ball and paid balls to get access to when it comes to our guides, videos with voiceover, and obviously our very well-known Telegram support service as well. So scan the QR code here on the screen or use the link in the description down below, patreon.com/golfclashtommy to sign up. For hole number 4, we're gonna play from complete minimum distance with a power 3 ball. This is a very tough par 3, even though it doesn't look like it. And the reason this is a tough one is because of that slight downhill fairway that is just before the green, because that one is not acting in a logic way, in my opinion. Obviously, when it comes to par 3s, it's all about finding a good spot, and then to obviously then adapt and tweak everything else to work with that spot, and that's what I'm trying to do here in the video. Maximum distance with a 15% over adjustment with a power 5 ball settings here in the video. Hit perfect, and we're gonna bounce on the fairway and then take that downhill slope, and we roll not quick at all, but just to the right of the pin. Obviously the spins and the adjustment will vary depending on what type of wind angle you have. In a tailwind, you're going to play with a long iron, and here you can see in a headwind and a crosswind, we're going to play with a wood club. Hole number 5, we're going to play with the quarterback in tailwind, this to lay up here on the fairway. Now you may be thinking, is there any way to get over to the middle fairway island there? Yes, there is, but it's also going to be involving a lot of risk, and the water will most definitely be in play. So here for in a playthrough and whole guy perspective, I'm laying up and taking myself a safe eagle. But from a tournament standpoint, especially if in opening round and a weekend round, I most definitely see nothing wrong with getting over to the fairway island and then pushing to get an albatross. Even though the albatross will be rare, getting over to that island, it will still be a possibility, which laying up here where we are now, the possibility will be very, very rare. Second shot, we're gonna play with our Guardian, max backspin, and we're gonna utilize the tailwind, just land the ball on green, and just be done with it. The drive is adjusted max plus 15, and the second shot is actually adjusted max plus 20, even though it's not that much downhill. But due to playing over all the water definitely has an effect in how much the ball is affected by the wind. So max plus 20, and it could, based on the result here now with a perfect, we could honestly have adjusted even max plus 30 or max plus 40. But we are doing what we came to do, which is to get a safe eagle. If you do have a crosswind or a headwind of T, getting over to the middle island is not going to be a possibility. And you're going to have to lay up as we did here in the video. But then I recommend to play with the rock or to play with Extra Mile, Apocalypse, Force Hammer. And then you're going to play with the Cataclysm or the big dog on the very far right island and bounce it over towards the green area. So no matter what type of wind you're having here, the eagle is going to be difficult and the albatross will be very rare. Hole number 6, here we're going to play with the rock in tailwind, in crosswind, and headwind. I would recommend to play with either Apocalypse, Thor's Hammer, or the Extra Mile, as we would be needed of more power. Playing with 4 bars of top spin, 2 bars of right spin, and adjustment is going to be maximum distance plus 10. I'm playing with a power 3 ball instead, not instead, but I'm playing with a power 3 ball. And there is no need to play with more power here. And I think if we can keep it with a Kingmaker, it's definitely going to be a good thing when it comes to the different balls we can select between. Getting ball down the fairway is good. Now we're looking to be either with a max distance Grizzly or to be in minimum distance with Sniper. And you can see here on the second shot that the Grizzly is going to be the play. A little bit shorter would have been a Sniper. And the Grizzly here is going to be, together with the B52 level 7 or better, going to be the best club due to its better ball guideline. It will give you the possibility to rely on the ball guideline in a much bigger extent. Grizzly level 9 obviously has a little bit more power than Grizzly 7 and Grizzly 8, so if your intention is to play the Grizzly all the time, then maybe push the drive a little bit harder so you get a couple of more yards so you won't be struggling with Grizzly 7 or 8. 10% elevation, true club distance, hit perfect, and you will see yourself having a decent chance for an eagle here on hole number 6. If there is a tailwind, there is possibility to send it over to the final fairway. I would, however, say that that's going to be requiring a lot of topspin boost. I remember we had this even from the 30 way back where we did have a lot of topspin boost to use, such as the Spirit Ball and Owl Ball and stuff like that, and there wasn't really anything that got consistently over to get by the green, which obviously is the goal if you send it, otherwise you could equally lay up and save the better balls. Hole number 7 is also a good chance to a drop in my opinion. Hole number 2 is the best of the par 3s, and hole 7 comes just after that in my opinion. And we're gonna play 3.5 backspin and 3 left spin. You can see that I'm playing absolute minimum distance here. I'm looking to have blue ring to just touching the bunker on the left. That's going to be the position once I stop wiggling around here on the screen. Minimum distance with a 20% over adjustment is what I'm using here. What has to be said is if you do have a tailwind, then playing from min line here is going to be very difficult as you're gonna pull into in between clubs. So you're going to then play with a Sniper from absolute max distance instead. There is a slight funnel on the green, so if you're catching the correct spot, this is going to be a very good chance for a drop. It's just very difficult to find that spot because it's not every time that you're gonna find the position as wanted. So even though it is a very weird looking par 3, a lot of downhill, a lot of slopes, it's actually one of the better chances for an hole-in-one, and also one of the better chances we do have for a drop of the Waterfield sands. Hole number 6, which is hole number 7 of the Wiseacre Ranch. This is, in my opinion, in the 4th of July tournament, this is the toughest of the holes, especially if we don't have a tailwind. So here we do have some headwind, playing a QB 9+, so quarterback level 9+, a P6 NMT. Once we have done that, we are swapping immediately to Apocalypse and our sniper bag. 5.8 top spin and 3 right spin. Adjust is going to be max plus a 20p. 0. Once the adjustment is made, we are going to do 2 balls of right curl with just before circle drop. The intention here with this drive is to get the ball down somewhere between 348 and 356 yards. The second shot is with our sniper, and we are gonna start by setting 5 backspin and 1 right spin. Once that is sorted, we are going to set the tip of the ball guideline approximately 2 green squares short of the hole, pointing to the right edge of the cup. That's obviously a difficult thing to do because the offset is quite subjective, and it also comes down to having having the camera angle putting you in the correct spot. But do your best, because no matter what, this is a difficult hole that we're playing, and the offset is key. Adjust is going to be 1 to 1, meaning that we are playing the same adjust as the wind is telling us. So 6.6 miles per hour is in 6.6 rings. And that is our base from +5 and 6 a landing position for sniper 10, +7 and +8 a landing position for sniper 9. Good chance, but definitely a difficult par 4. Hole number 8 is another rough bump with another good chance. Here we do have one thing to have in mind. That is that if we do have a tailwind, we can play with a wood club. If we do have a crosswind or a headwind, we're going to have to play with a driver. Very similar to how hole 5 is the other par 3 rough bump. Now, using a little bit of right spin, a little bit of backspin to get the ball guideline through the hole. In the video, we make the adjustment and we play minimum distance, no elevation, P2 numbers. What we notice here now is that I'm actually pulling into min line here. You can see that where the red line starts to glow up. And the thing that I forget to do there is to do a little bit of overpower to compensate, because I will become over adjusted when I do pull into the min line. So if I wouldn't pull into the min line, the adjustment would be good, and that's something to have in mind based on this video. Obviously the adjustment and the spins can be slightly different depending on what wind angle we do have in the tournament. No matter what though, very good chance. For the drive on hole number 9, we are going to play on the right hand side. Many of the times, there will be times where we can play on the left hand side, but we are dependent on, if so, having tailwind. So now when having headwind, we're going to play down the right using as much topspin that you possible can. I'm using the driver with the most power and topspin that I do have on this account. Max overpower here, as the headwind will obviously not be helpful in the sense of giving us more power, so I'm using the overpower to push the ball as far up with my first bounce. And now we're gonna just lay up. We are far away from the water and the rough, which obviously is good, so there is no risk in getting into the rough or into the sand at the top there, even if you would be having more topspin than the 6 bars that you have on my extra mile. Now the second shot is just going to be to transport the ball to the green area. Be careful here so you're not rolling into the rough or the rough sand that is there by the tree, by the green. So I'm trying to use a little side spin and also a decent amount of top spin here. I'm using more or less all the top spin on my Cataclysm level 4 here. Playing on this fairway before the rough there, not trying to go over the rough, is gonna be a medium distance +10 adjustment. If we would be having room to go over the rough there at the top, then we would be playing it max +10, but there will be very few times, especially if having headwind of tee, where we can actually do so. Great right makes me become a little bit lucky because I roll, and I actually roll through the rough here and having a nice and short easy wedge for an eagle. So to summarize, in headwind we're playing for an eagle only. In crosswind and tailwind we can play over on the left by using a lot of topspin, such as a big topper play with a power 5 ball, or just playing with a big board driver or something like that. That would get you over, and then you have a long iron or you have a wood club towards the pin. So in the end here, this is hole number 9, tough one to get anything else than an eagle. For hole number 8 here, there are tons of value in getting over to the right side, or let's say we can call it straight forward, is when you do have to go on the left side, which will be needed if you do have a headwind. Then it's going to be a wood club from distance on a very bouncy fairway, which never really going to be something that I would like to suggest if it's not an absolute must. If a crosswind, I would recommend to play with a power 5 ball. Honestly, in a tailwind like this, there's nothing wrong to play with a power 5 ball here also, to avoid having to go with max overpower. Now I'm getting the ball very close to the rough line, or not very close, but kind of close, which is good. 400 yards is a perfect yardage. Second shot, now we're gonna play with a long iron to pin, and now it's all about finding a correct reference point, which could be a landing position plus yardage, or a fringe check, or a pin check, because as you will be in somewhat no man's land with the target, with no references of the rings by the fringe, then you will have to rely on the plus yardage to give you the correct adjustment. 15% elevation, and then obviously whatever slider percentage you decide to go with, and you bounce on the fairway up towards the pin. Unfortunately, coming in just a little bit left with a little bit more adjustment, we would see ourselves getting that one to drop for an eagle. Hole number 8, it's definitely it's very makeable, but it's no gimme, as no of the Waterfield sands are. Hole number 9 is by far the easiest par 5 to have a chance for an albatross, but also to drop the albatross. Obviously, the drive is everything, as always when it comes to longer holes like this. Starting at the max line with rock level 8. Rock level 9 start at the plus 15 yard mark, which is 1 yard below max. Max plus 10 is what I'm adjusting, using 3.8 top spin and 2 left spin. The goal here is to hit perfect, obviously. But the idea with the whole play is to bounce on the fairway over to the other fairway, and obviously to avoid the freaking rough there that we do have there on the left hand side. A perfect and a great right, I would say, to favor over a great left, as great left often give you some dead bounces. Now, second shot is gonna be with the grizzly. Now it's all about finding a reference. I'm using the fringe, where the fringe meets the fairway, as a reference. 2 right spin to remove myself as much as I can from the rough line. And here it is probably the most important thing to focus on, is the top spin and the speed that you get onto the green to the hole. If you come in too hot, you may roll down the green. You can see it's slightly downhill, and if you are too far away from the pin, you will have an impossible putt. I've honestly experienced that a couple of times in tour play, which is not really a fun thing to be involved in. 5% elevation, and here from plus 8 I'm using 96% slider, just as a reference, because I know, as well as I think you do, that the adjustment will vary depending on what wind direction and strength you're having on the second shot here. Bouncing on in the rough and rolls down the green, and right at pin for lovely albatross on hole number 9. To just summarize the par 5s, hole 3 and hole 5, it will be very, very, very few albatross made, but hole 9 is definitely the one where if you can score an albatross here, it will sit very well on your scorecard, as that will be very good as a tiebreaker, because not everyone will drop the albatross, but it's there. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this playthrough for Pro and Expert Division with various wins here for the WM Phoenix Open 18-hole cup, a full 18, including Waterfield Sands and the Wiseacre Ranch. If you're looking to improve your game even more, scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the description down below, patreon.com/golfclashtommy, to sign up for our premium guides to improve your tournament and tour play today. Sign up, get access immediately, and start your journey. Good luck!